Hello, welcome to HITC Sport. Alright, the January transfer window is coming up. So let's take a look at every Premier League club and see which player is leaving your club next month. Right, let's go. Arsenal, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Surely Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is leaving the club, right? I mean, in the space of a week, this guy's gone from being the captain of Arsenal Football Club to now having midnight chats with the Chelsea manager. You know, crying down the phone to old boss Tommy Tuchel. Clearly this man doesn't agree with losing the captain's armband. I mean, apparently Rob Holding is in contention to take it. I'm sorry, I'm guessing Aubameyang has a bigger ego than a Christmas tree. If he suddenly has to take orders in the dressing room from a walking defensive omelette like Holding, oh, he might actually punch himself in the face. This is a guy who earns £350,000 every single week. For a man who can't even turn up to training on time. Don't think for a second that the Arsenal hierarchy don't want to stick his contract in a recycling bin. Barcelona have been linked with this guy as a replacement for Sergio Aguero, who was earning £130,000 a week. Yes, Aubameyang will have to cut his wages in two, at least. And yes, he'd be playing for a circus clown show, about to exit the Europa League to Napoli. But I'm sorry, playing every week at the new camp, or rotting in a duffel coat beside Eddie Nketiah on the bench. I think this move could actually happen. Aston Villa, Wesley Moraes. Yeah, I think we can all now officially write off Wesley Moraes as a £22 million disaster flop at Villa Park. One of the worst signings in the history of the club. Listen, I know he initially scored 5 goals before his knee was turned into a decapitated Easter bunny, but let's face it, he's never coming good at Villa Park. This has been an entirely waste of time. The club have already moved on from him. He's currently on loan back at Club Brugge in Belgium. And realistically, how many Villa scouts do you think have actually boarded a plane to go and watch him play? It's about as pointless as continuing to spy your ex-wife from the bushes outside her bathroom window. Just no, move on. This guy has only started 1 game in Belgium this season. I'm sorry, this is a division which successfully rehabilitated the likes of Saido Berahino, whose career was probably in the same dustbin reserved for the members of JLS. So how short of confidence must Wesley actually be? Anyway, he's currently linked with a permanent switch back to Brazil with Palmeiras. So that's it. This is the end of Wesley at Villa Park. Brentford, nobody. Yeah, Brentford aren't selling anyone. Their squad's too thin. They're not letting anyone go. Next, Brighton, Aaron Connolly. Now don't get me wrong, Aaron Connolly could well stay at Brighton beyond January, especially considering that team right now looks about as clinical as a group of incontinent badgers. But let's be honest, in normal circumstances, Graham Potter looks like he'd rather brush his teeth with Susan Boyle's hairbrush for her armpits than trust Connolly in front of goal. The man's barely been seen this season. He can hardly even make the matchday squad, and so yeah, I know he played an hour up top against Wolves the other day, but that was probably his final chance to impress. And again, it was like watching Elmo in a pair of football boots. Considering he was nearly dumped on loan last summer, then honestly, yeah, I can see a permanent switch to the Championship via a club like Middlesbrough. It would not surprise me. Burnley, James Tarkowski. Yeah, here is a perfect example of the Burnley Board of Directors utterly ruining a potential payday. Honestly, this club would turn down £30 million bids from Leicester and West Ham for James Tarkowski last year. Now they're preparing to lose him for less than the price of a Kit Kat next summer. I mean, was it worth it? No, this would be like if Burnley had rejected Everton's £30 million offer from Michael Keane before seeing him walk out the door for the price of a hook. No, and now we're hearing that West Ham, having once been quoted £50 million for a former Oldham Athletics centre-back with just 2 England caps to his name, the papers are saying they're now ready to return with a £7 million bid. Honestly, once this transfer happens, Sean Dyche is probably going to storm into the boardroom and throw the kettle at someone's face. Yeah, you've essentially burned a £30 million paycheck so you can have Tarkowski for another year. Was it really worth it? Chelsea, Ross Barkley. Ross Barkley is gone in January. I'm sorry, but he is. Listen, I know he's played more minutes of football this season than I thought. I assume Thomas Tuchel would look at him the same way most people would look at a chunk of vomit on the pavement. But to be fair, he started against St. Petersburg and Burnley. Chelsea didn't win either of those games. And that's it. It's just been 20-minute cameos off the bench. And the saddest stat of all is that the former England golden boy, a man who said he wanted to develop into a world-class player at Chelsea, he's only scored 1 Premier League goal for this club since October 2018. That's just sad. The poor man's career has fallen off a cliff. At 28 years of age, he should be in the England team. Instead, he is lower in the pecking order than Chelsea's 9th choice midfielder. I mean, come on, surely his ego is seeping out his nose. Is he really content warming the bench at Stamford Bridge next to a Spanish oatcake like Saul Niguez? Trust me, he is going to demand a permanent move in January. I mean, I know you earn £110,000 a week. I know you won't possibly earn that anywhere else other than the Japanese leagues, but it's fine. I don't think you're suddenly gonna have to sell your shoes on eBay and eat food out of a bin. Just accept the pay cut and return to Ellen Road, where he briefly played on loan in 2013. Come on, regular Premier League football, playing alongside Calvin Phillips in the field under arguably the most brilliant tactical brain Barkley would have ever come across throughout his career. This has to happen. Crystal Palace, Gyro Riedewald. I think it's time for Gyro Riedewald to finally leave the building. It's mental to think this utility man, the Dutch John O'Shea, has been on Crystal Palace for 4 years, and he's played less than 80 times. Listen, I know he was a regular under Roy Hodgson last season, but clearly Patrick Vieira sized you up as being about as solid as a fried egg. He started the opening day of the season in midfield in that 3-0 loss at Chelsea, and Vieira clearly looked at you and immediately stifled vomit in his throat because you haven't been picked since. I'm guessing Riedewald is sick of rotting on the sidelines, so yeah, he'll get a return to the Eredivisie. Everton, Cenk Tosun. Right now, Cenk Tosun consistently looks like he's been kept prisoner on Everton's bench. This is just an example of someone who everybody accepted was a big money flop about 3 years ago, and yet here he is still hanging around like some middle-aged cheerleader, probably stinking of tears and cauliflower. Lads, he was given just 6 minutes of football in the derby 2 weeks ago, but surely that was just Rafa Benitez being nice. Honestly, not one single person at Everton Football Club wants this man still on the payroll past January. He was on loan at Besiktas last season and would have signed for them permanently in the summer, except he ruptured his patella. And so clearly, if he's not going to be able to play actual football, then he might as well have just spent the winter months in Liverpool on his fat £100,000 a week deal. But yeah, he's targeting a free transfer move back to Turkey next month, so yeah, clearly this is going to happen. Leeds, nobody. Again, Leeds have a decimated, threadbare squad to the point where Marcelo Bielsa is probably considering offering the canteen dinner ladies a pair of football boots. So I think it's safe to say that not a single Leeds United employee will be allowed to leave the club next month. Next, Leicester Ayotte Perez. Mental to think that Leicester City once paid £30 million for Ayotte Perez. That's 30 times what they once paid for Jamie Vardy. But last season, he scored a limp 3 goals in 36 matches. And now, the guy can barely crawl off the bench, just reduced to starting in the Europa League. Factor in the fact that he was sent off against West Ham in August, which seemed to confirm to Brendan Rodgers that Perez was about as trustworthy as Bill Cosby in a pub, then surely he's going to be dumped in January. What a Newcastle. Perez kept always whining about a return to La Liga one day. So yeah, he's probably going to get booted out to someone like Valencia for a cut price £12 million. Liverpool, Nathaniel Phillips. If Liverpool never suffered that injury crisis last season, then I'm pretty sure Nathaniel Phillips would just be seen as some 24-year-old donut of a centre-back, probably now farmed out of some championship mid-table club like Sheffield United. I mean, everyone assumed that Liverpool's 6th choice centre-half was about as reliable as expired milk. But to be fair, he's played 17 times in the Premier League now. He just marked Zlatan Ibrahimovic at the San Siro. Somebody Phillips probably only ever encountered before on the PlayStation. So the fact he's been stuffed in the Liverpool under-21s this season, despite being nearly halfway to 50, it's an insult to the man. No wonder he wants to leave. He'll get a move in January to someone like West Ham or Newcastle for about £10 million, or maybe even Burnley once Tarkovsky gets sold. Trust me, Phillips is leaving Anfield. Man City, Ferran Torres. It looks like Ferran Torres has turned out to be the next Nolito. Okay, maybe that's a bit harsh because Nolito mostly looked like a wet sandbag at the Etihad. Torres is actually a quality footballer. Last season he scored 13 goals in his debut season in English football, including a hat-trick away at Newcastle. Listen, I know he's recovering from a fractured foot, but even before that he was mostly squashed on the bench. The papers are saying that Barcelona, despite probably having to pay for canteen food with money from the Tooth Fairy, honestly half the players probably in order to punch themselves in the teeth so they can afford running water in the toilets. But despite all of this, the Spanish media are still confident somehow that they're going to be able to complete a deal for Torres in January. What is it about the Spaniards hating the Manchester rain with a violent passion? Honestly, David Silva seemed to be the only one who didn't instantly shrivel like a belly button in the bath. Man United, Anthony Martial. Remember when Anthony Martial had a Ballon d'Or clause inserted in his contract? Yeah, that now looks about as stupid as a politician's speech about Peppa Pig, but still, let's not suddenly rewrite history here. I've seen some wet turkeys on the internet claim that this guy wouldn't start for Aston Villa, that he's about as threatening as Pingu the Penguin. Yeah, I know he's out in the cold at Old Trafford now, but I'm sorry, let's not suddenly pretend that, oh, he's not fit to lace the boots of Ollie Watkins or Anwar El Ghazi. No, don't ignore, this is a man with 79 goals for Manchester United. Ask Ollie Watkins to do that, and he'd probably sneeze cornflakes out his nose. Only 15 players in the history of Manchester United have scored more goals for this club than Anthony Martial. So can we please stop pretending that suddenly he's got the footballing ability of Justin Bieber? The man wants to leave the club, and who can blame him? He's just lost his place to a nearly 40-year-old man. It won't be the Newcastle though. I mean, do you really think that a man who constantly looks like he's just seen his dog trampled by a bus, do you think he really has the appetite for a relegation fight? Scrapping it out in the dressing room with Sean Longstaff? Taking orders from the former Bournemouth boss? No, he'll leave with his dignity intact and get him up to someone like Atletico Madrid. Newcastle, Jeff Hendrick. Remember when Jeff Hendrick's agent tricked the world into thinking that when leaving Burnley, he was fending off offers from AC Milan and Manchester United? Yeah, that's like when you're in school and someone says they got their first kiss on holidays.
Oh, you would know her. She lives in Peru.
Don't lie, your first kiss was with your dog. Oh, wait, that was me. But come on, did Jeff Hendrick's agent think they were all just a bunch of gullible mini Shreks who just sits in their living room drinking paint all day? Come on, I'm Irish, alright? I should love Hendrick, right? But I don't. He's got the mythical presence of a wet paper bag. This is a championship standard footballer masquerading as a top flight one. I have a feeling that with all the big money moves at Newcastle this January, this guy's going to be moved on. I mean, Eddie Howe has yet to give him a single minute in a Newcastle shirt. He hasn't played since scoring against Wolves in October. He'll get packaged into a Tesco's bin bag and get dumped on the porch of someone like Preston North End or Millwall. Just someone like that. Norwich, nobody. Again, no, Dean Smith is desperate to add to his Norwich squad. I really don't think he'll want to lose anyone. Not even those with the ability of a melted cream egg. No, for Norwich, if they're going to survive, they need all hands on deck. Southampton, Theo Walcott. Listen, I've always liked Theo Walcott. He always comes across as a mature, well-spoken man. He's going to make a fantastic pundit one day. Crazy enough, he was dragged under the spotlights of a World Cup with England when he was just a 16-year-old boy. I'm surprised he didn't spend the entire tournament asking for selfies in the back of the team bus. Crazy enough, looking back at that, it really was uncomfortable for Sven-Göran Eriksson to subject a teenage boy to that level of attention and fame. It could have scrambled his brain like one of those Disney Channel headaches like Miley Cyrus. That man should have spent that summer sitting at home watching Drake and Josh on the telly. The fact he then actually managed to carve out 12 years and over 100 goals at Arsenal. Oh yeah, and nearly 50 caps for his country. That doesn't get talked about enough. So, fair play to the man, but clearly time has caught up with him at the age of 32. He now mostly just rots on the Southampton bench. I can see a mid-season switch to some championship promotion hunter like Bournemouth or Fulham. Just someone like that. Tottenham, Dele Alli. So, I guess that Jose Mourinho was right about Dele Alli's hunger for the sport. I'm confused. How can a midfielder who once scored 36 goals across 2 seasons for Spurs now be seen as just some dried up egg McMuffin? Dele Alli even hinted during the summer that after his England snub, he was knuckling down and fighting to get his career back on track. No, looks like those words are about as hollow as Conor McGregor's on Twitter. I mean, Nuno Espirito Santo gave up on you after a month, while Antonio Conte can't even be bothered to give you a chance. It's incredible. Ali was once one of Tottenham's most prized assets. Now, they're just going to turf him out the door to someone like Newcastle mid-season. It's sad. Since when did Dele Alli turn into an unwanted milkshake like Danny Rose? Price above, what's next? Watford in a year? Watford, Danny Rose. Danny Rose is going to be dumped. He's been one of the flops of the season. I mean, maybe he's still sulking and dreaming about getting moved to Milan. Maybe. He's played a handful of games in Watford shirt and he's been on the losing side nearly every single time. He's mostly defended like a wet hamburger. If he's lost the love for the sport, then fine. Admit it. Admit your passion's gone. I mean, only 2 years ago you were playing in a Champions League final. Why is he now just some dustbin standard of a left back? I can see Watford cutting the losses and selling him to someone like Blackburn or Bristol City. West Ham, Jared Bowen. Yeah, this is controversial, but I'm predicting this is going to be the shock transfer of the window. Liverpool are currently linked with Jared Bowen. He's a hard-working, energetic wide man with an eye for goal. And considering this is the same club who signed Craig Bellamy twice, and Jared Bowen is essentially just a nicer version of him. Someone who doesn't look like he'd headbutt his granny in the face. Again, Bellamy was also a man who quite liked a January transfer. And similarly with Bowen, he also had no problem leaving Hull City in the lurch halfway through the season 2 years ago. I'm predicting Jurgen Klopp is going to come in with a £35 million bid to drag Bowen out of West Ham as Jesse Lingard takes his place. Honestly, watch this. It's going to happen. Wolves, Keanu Hoover. It's stupid to write off a 19-year-old boy, but am I the only one a bit underwhelmed with the progress of Keanu Hoover? This guy made his debut for Liverpool age 16. I foolishly thought he was going to follow in the footsteps of Trent Alexander-Arnold to become a Liverpool legend. But no, instead he gets sold to Wolves for £9 million. And again, yeah, he played 90 minutes of football at right back on the opening day of the season in a 1-0 loss to Leicester, but since then he's been given a combined total of 12 minutes. Come on, he's 19. He needs to be playing games. What's the problem? Is it because he's not Portuguese? I can see him forcing a move to someone like QPR or Stoke. Pretty underwhelming, but yeah, this man, he has to leave Wolves. And he has to leave them now. Anyway, that's it for this video. What do you think? Alright, what player is going to leave your club this January? Let me know in the comments below. Enjoy the video. Don't forget to subscribe. As always, talk to you in a while.